Hello guys, welcome back onto the channel. Dirt 5, the brand new Codemasters game, is a direct follow-up to Dirt 3. And as a cross-gen release, it will run better on the new consoles, and I have a lot to talk about the performance on this review. The game has been received in a negative light since the first gameplay video came out, with people pointing out how ugly the game looked. But does that hold up in the final game? And most importantly, is it fun? If you pre-ordered the Amplified Edition and got access to the Early Access version, the first thing you've probably noticed was the performance. And it's a sticking point on both Xbox One X and PC. All the footage you see throughout this video was captured on the Xbox One X, since performance on PC manages to be even worse than on console. There have been reports of widespread issues related to performance on PC, most of which I have experienced myself. These issues go from crashes, which haven't happened to me so far, to massive and constant stuttering and the inability of the game to reach 60 FPS, and these I have experienced. And when you read people complaining that their 3090s are struggling to reach 50 FPS, you know the game is poorly optimized. For that reason, I didn't bother trying to capture footage on PC, as I've also been having issues with shadowplay, and that would add an extra layer of stuttering to any footage captured. Jumping over to the Xbox One X version, the first thing you were gonna immediately see if you were playing the Early Access version was screen tearing right on the menus. During races it got much worse, especially so when you had the full pack of cars on the screen at once, which also caused very noticeable sustained performance drops. And it didn't seem to matter whether you were running with the performance mode that tries to lock the game at 60 FPS with dynamic 4K or the resolution mode at native 4K 30 FPS. The screen tearing happened there as well, although the performance dips were less frequent. Thankfully, Codemasters released a patch yesterday that got rid of the screen tearing on the Xbox One X version. I can't confirm whether it's gone for good, but at least the races I've tried, there was none. The sustained performance dips are still there, but I feel that's an area where there isn't a lot of headroom to play around with on the Xbox One X, so my hope is that the Xbox Series X runs the game better. However, the patch didn't fix any of the issues I'm having with the PC version. The massive and constant stuttering are still there, and that's a problem you won't have to deal with on the Xbox One X version. For PC players, these technical issues are a massive distraction that you will eventually learn to ignore for the most part, despite them being there, but I can tell most people will not have enough tolerance to play through the game long enough for the issue to become less of a nuisance. Still, regardless of day one patches, this shouldn't have launched at this state. It's just a disservice to the game. On a more positive note, the menus feel really fast. At times, you could easily mistake it for the performance you get off an SSD on PC, but it's actually running off a standard Xbox One X hard drive, and that's definitely promising because that means it's gonna be even more responsive on the Xbox Series X. Loading races, on the other hand, takes about as long as any other game installed on a hard drive, but again, things should improve a lot when running on an Xbox Series X. Another point of debate were the graphics, with a lot of people arguing the game looked really bad. Having played the game for about 10 hours so far, it wouldn't be fair of me to say it looks bad. The best word for what we have here is inconsistent. You get a lot of races that do indeed look very bland, generic, flat, or whatever other negative word you can think of. But when the game gets creative with the lighting and environments, and especially the weather effects, you get some truly beautiful visuals that show how much more this game could stand out if the amount of thought and effort was consistent throughout the whole thing. And that's too bad because you do need to seek these races out, which again does the game a disservice. One of the things that can weird me out is watching footage of pre-release games with bad camera work. If the cars move in an awkward manner, I'll go in thinking the physics are bad. That's the impression I got from watching some of the Dirt 5 videos, because the way the cars took corners sideways looked odd to me. After playing the game though, all of my concerns went away. The physics are very solid and fun, and the cars feel tight while making it easy to start and control drifts. It's just the camera work that doesn't do a good job to convey what it feels like to drive. The game offers a story mode, but I couldn't care less about it. No disrespect to the people involved, but I just don't care about story in racing games. I want to race and unlock stuff, so anything that tries to get in the way ends up being a distraction. I'll try my best to skip, and that's been my experience with Dirt 5 so far. Sometimes you're navigating through the menus and suddenly a dialogue pops up with subtitles covering the lower third of the screen, making it hard for you to see what you're doing. Luckily, the game does allow you to skip most of the story content. Progression-wise, it doesn't do anything to break new ground, and I'm totally fine with that. I don't think games need to reinvent the wheel every time. The gameplay loop is what you would expect from most racing games: do events, earn money, buy cars, rinse, and repeat. You unlock liveries and new events at pretty much every race you do, but that's about it. In race you get Drive Club style goals, but here they feel secondary as completing them does nothing to the number of gold medals you receive, since these are based on your finishing position instead. Still, it's a nice touch that will add some level of replayability to the races. One interesting feature the game offers is the ability to reroll events and challenges in case you are having trouble with anyone in particular, which helps with the accessibility aspect of the game. And speaking of accessibility, you have your standard suite of assists including Auto Brake and Trick Steer, which helps you with Gymkhana events. The sound in the game is good, and I feel the music adds a lot to the atmosphere. At times, it makes you feel like you're playing Forza Horizon 2 instead, which is definitely meant as a compliment. Unfortunately, I can't show any of the music here, so you have to take my word. There's a decent amount of cars, and they're varied, going from classics to more modern electrics. Despite not featuring a huge amount of track locations, the game does a great job at varying the weather conditions and time of day on the very distinct layouts, enough that it truly makes you feel like there are a lot more tracks in the game. You also have access to a lot of different race types, which only adds to the sense that there's more content in the game than there actually is. If playing the standard tracks is not your thing, you also have access to the playground mode, where you're able to create your own custom tracks and also race on tracks created by other players, which will definitely do a lot to add some longevity to the game. You may have noticed I used the word disservice in this review. I feel that the layers that encapsulate this game don't do it any favors, and it's a shame because what lies underneath these technical and art direction issues is a game that's really fun to play with an addicting gameplay loop. They did fix a lot of the issues, at least on console, but first impressions matter, and what people got away with initially was a very technically broken game that shouldn't have launched like that. Technical issues aside, Dirt 5 doesn't have the staying power that heavy hitters like Forza Horizon and even The Crew do, which means it's a game I'll complete up to 100% and probably never play again. And with Codemasters known to support their games for a limited set period, there's a good chance I'll stop playing sooner than most other games. For the first time, it feels like Dirt found its true identity, and I like the direction Codemasters is committing to with Dirt 5. I want to see them building upon it in future games, perhaps wrapped in an initial free package. If you enjoyed Dirt 3, you'll probably enjoy this one too. Just go in with the mindset that you'll have a few hurdles to jump through to find the fun in it. It's there, but it takes some digging to get to it. Anyways, that's all I have for this video. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll talk to you on the next one. Bye.